Hey, everybody. Welcome back to Follow the Moon Rabbit Unscripted. This is my podcast where we explore the mystical, the spiritual, the taboo, and the unseen. I'm your host, Michelle, your Moon Rabbit Psychopomp. And wait, what? I said it. I said psycho. This is true. Brother, what is this? Oh my gosh. Yes, besties, one of my many skills is that of a psychopomp. And that is today's topic. So, grab your coffee, grab your tea, grab your water. Let's jump in and have a fun time. Have a fun time. So, have you heard of the term psychopomp? If not, you are definitely not alone. For me, it wasn't until much later in my exploration of spiritual beliefs that I discovered that terminology. So, let's dive into what is that terminology. The word psychopomp comes from the Greek words psyche, meaning soul, and pompos, meaning guide or conductor. So a psychopomp is literally a guide of souls. So what does a psychopomp do? Glad you asked. A psychopomp assists souls in the transition from the physical realm here to the spiritual one after they pass. So it's what some would consider today kind of like a death doula. Whereas today's death doulas are there to help navigate and bring peace to the person prior to their passing, as well as help with the transition after the fact. And they're also there for the family members after the fact. They're not there to judge, though, right? They don't decide where the soul goes or anything like that. They simply ensure the journey is safe and complete, much like gods and goddesses in mythology. And speaking of mythology, psychopomps appear in various forms across many cultures and traditions. So I have a list of examples. It's not definitive. And let's start with the first one, Greek mythology. Hermes was the messenger god. Also, he served as a psychopomp, guiding souls to the underworld. And in Egyptian mythology, that was Anubis. That's the jackal-headed deity, for those of you who don't know, that is often depicted as a psychopomp who leads souls to their final judgment. And then in Norse mythology, Valkyries are the ones who escorted the fallen warriors to Valhalla. In Celtic mythology, the Morrigan, the goddess of war, fate, and death, for those who do not know, is believed to have originated as a psychopomp. And then in indigenous traditions, there's shamans or medicine people, depending on the region that you're in, that often act as psychopomps during rituals, helping souls find peace. In the Santeria pantheons, Elegua is a powerful deity who's associated with roads, paths, and crossroads, and is also known to be a psychopomp. Now, in modern interpretations, we have angels, spirit guides, and even the departed of our loved ones that can take on the role of psychopomp. And this is not a definitive list. There's so much more to explore, and I encourage you to look at your favorite cultures and traditions for their psychopomp stories and wisdom. Now, in some spiritual practices, psychopomps are otherworldly entities that are invoked or envisioned during rituals or meditations to assist with the passing of souls. And in other traditions, such as with shamans, mediums, energy workers, they are the guides that guide the souls during the process and are often aided by their spirit guides. Now, are you asking, am I a psychopomp? To know if you might be a psychopomp, let's look at these 6 questions for recurring experiences. Maybe you've had them, and I want you to reflect on them. The first one is, have you ever felt drawn to people nearing death? Have you ever had vivid dreams about the afterlife? Do you have a strong sense of calm in the face of death? Do you have an ability to easily connect with grieving people? Do you have a deep understanding of the transition between life and death, often accompanied by a feeling of responsibility to guide others through this process? Have you experienced a natural inclination to support and comfort those facing significant life transitions, particularly with death, with a sense of being a bridge between worlds? If any of those questions resonate with you and you have any kind of recollection in your time where that resonated with you, you may be a psychopomp. Surprisingly, there are people who are psychopomps who do not know that they are psychopomps. Nurses in residential homes for sure. Doctors. You'd be surprised. Now, key characteristics of a psychopomp. There's also some characteristics of a psychopomp that could be a clue for you. So I'm going to share 7 of these characteristics with you. Some of them of my lived experiences I'm going to share as examples. So keep in mind, this is not a definitive list though, okay? So the first one is intuition. You may be someone who has a strong intuition about when someone is nearing the end of their life, even if you haven't met them before. For me personally, I had the strong intuition about when my mom was going to pass. And I shared that information with our loved ones to let them know, hey, the time is drawing near. Now, my mom's health was declining, yes. But she didn't show any indication that like her time was like literally around the corner. So my family they weren't prepared. Even though I said, hey, the time is getting close, it's time to prepare. They didn't see what I was seeing. And so they thought that they had months and months and months, maybe even a year, whereas it was literally weeks. And then another instance is when I had an intuition about my neighbor. I had only met her in passing. I didn't know her very well, but I knew that her time was coming to a close. So if you've had instances where you had met someone and you had a feeling, and that feeling was correct, that would be a key characteristic. The second one is having a comforting presence. Again, I reflect back to nurses and doctors. Oftentimes when we're around them in medical facilities, they do have a comforting presence. People will feel comforted and a sense of peace and calm around you when they're grieving or facing a difficult time. And for me personally, that's one of my superpowers, as my boyfriend says, superpower. And the reason why he says that is because it doesn't matter where I'm at, anywhere in public, I don't have to know the person at all. If I say, hi, how are you? That person will feel compelled to share their difficulty or their grievance with me because I have a comforting presence and a calm presence. I have peace. I don't know why they think that. I guess they do. I don't see it. I'm kidding. I kid. But yeah, my boyfriend literally says, Michelle, you need to turn your superpower down because no matter where we go, people just start opening up and sharing their whole life story with you. And that is definitely a key indicator, a characteristic for someone who's a psychopomp. The third one is the symbolic dreams. You might experience reoccurring dreams about the afterlife, having spiritual journeys, or guiding souls through different realms. Now, for me, when I'm having these dreams, I am literally fighting any zombie apocalypse. It is absolute chaos. It's anarchy. It's apocalyptic. It looks like one of the Terminator movies. Like it's just war and there's these zombie things everywhere. and I'm swooping in there and I'm collecting the souls that need to be rescued, and I'm taking them out and putting them into safety. So it doesn't have to be like that. It does not have to be like that. This is just one of my experiences that I thought you would find entertaining. The next one is that you may be drawn to a liminal space or liminal spaces in general. And for those of you who do not know what a liminal space is, it's a space where it can be both comforting and eerie because it's between the here and the there. Some people find liminal spaces to be very comforting because it's unusually here and there. Others find it incredibly eerie because it's the here and the there. Now, you might feel a strong pull towards places that are considered in between, like cemeteries, old buildings, or natural boundaries. An example of a natural boundary would be a fairy ring. Some people are not comfortable with those things at all. For me, personally, it's not that I'm a person who's drawn to liminal spaces. I find myself in them often, though. An example of a liminal space for me would be the Cottonwood Cemetery. So, my sister loves going ghost hunting. And there is a abandoned cemetery. Well, it was abandoned. There's somebody who tends to it now. But at the time, there was a time where it was abandoned. It was not cared for. And my sister had heard that there was a possibility this place was cursed or haunted, and she wanted to ghost hunt there. And so it's this little cemetery that has only like 3 or 4 headstones left. The rest of them had all been destroyed because the place had been vandalized once before. And then now it's being better taken care of. It's a little cemetery in the middle of nowhere outside of this town in Gustine, California. So in case you want to go look it out, that's where it's at. And be mindful of the territory because there's, residents nearby. When we got there to do our ghost hunting, as I was approaching the entrance to the cemetery, I felt the liminal space. I felt the portal transition as I approached the gate. And so I made sure to ask permission to enter the space. And the same thing applies for like fairy rings. When you're approaching the space, you want to ask for permission, and you want to leave an offering because you are entering a space that is sacred, liminal, between here and there. There's been other instances where I've entered liminal spaces not knowing exactly that they were liminal because it was supposed to be just a standard, normal place like the library. That happened. And that was incredibly fascinating. I enjoyed that one. There was a library in Lewiston, California, and it was an old schoolhouse turned library. And that had that in-between space. It was very, very fun. So if you're in California and you happen to travel to Lewiston, definitely go check out that library. It's very cute. The next one is having a compassionate nature. So if you are someone who has a deep empathy for others and a natural desire to help those in need, particularly the ones that are going through a time of loss or grief, it's characteristic of someone who is a psychopomp. For me personally, I've already shared with you. People like to come to me when they're in a state of distress. They'll just open up out of nowhere. I've also, I'm a first aid mental health responder. So if somebody is experiencing crisis, I'm there to respond to the crisis. I've also been an advocate for single moms who have gone through domestic violence and SA. And I've helped coach and mentor people who are going through trauma into, no longer surviving, but thriving. It's just something that I had chosen to do because I wanted to be the person that I wish I had when I was going through my experiences. So, another compassionate natured person, again, nurses, doctors, therapists, those people who are out there serving, those are, those are very strong indicators of someone who's a psychopomp or has the characteristic of a psychopomp. And it doesn't necessarily have to be in that kind of realm either. It could be something where you like to donate your time and energy to a resource center, or you like to help out with the local library. Having that nature of being empathetic and wanting to help those in need, especially those who, like, if you donate your time to the American Red Cross, again, those are examples of compassionate nature. The sixth one is cross-cultural understanding. Now, you may feel a connection to various spiritual traditions and their beliefs about death and the afterlife. For me, it's not necessarily that I felt connected to various spiritual traditions. It was more like I was researching different spiritual traditions and beliefs because I was trying to understand the nature of who I am as a spiritual being and the gifts that I have. So for me, I went on an exploration trying to discover the answers to my questions. And I came across the different beliefs about life and death and the afterlife. And then as time progressed, with the learning and so on and so forth, and even prior to having full scope knowledge, there were different deities from various cultures that would come to me and offer guidance and wisdom and teachings on some of the things that they had for me to learn. And that would drive my direction or my path to learning more about it. So an example would be when Ra showed up. I had no idea who Ra was when Ra showed up, but it drove me to learn more about the Egyptian beliefs. Stuff like that. So if you have that, because it goes either way, it may be something that you feel naturally inclined to do or something else, like similar to mine, that is a characteristic. The seventh characteristic is, for me, kind of pivotal, and that's the spirits will actually seek you out. So if you're a medium, then you fit into this bill. So if you often find that spirits or souls of the departed seek you out, then that is definitely a characteristic of a psychopomp. Because those spirits are often looking for a light or a guide to show them where they're supposed to go next. And sometimes that light is you. See, in the spirit realm, they see in a way that we don't see. They experience energy frequencies and light vibrations in a way that we don't see or sense here in our 3 dimension. And so for them, when they are in that transit, they're looking for something that's familiar, or they're trying to find an energy that resonates that's familiar. They're looking for home base is what they're pretty much trying to find. Some people call this heaven, so on and so forth. Okay. So there's been times, and it's documented, where spirits will have a very surprising departure from their physical body. And then they're experiencing a soul shock, if you will. They don't know where they're supposed to go. They don't know what they're supposed to do. And so they start looking for something that resonates with their vibration. And sometimes that's you. And when they find you, they're hoping that you can guide them because they're looking for a Google map to where they need to go. So that there's a couple of us out here who are lampposts, and then we escort those people to their destination. You may be one of those lampposts if you find that spirits seek you out. It also happens with the living. The living will come to you, seeking you out, because you vibrate at a specific vibration, and your light shines in a way that they resonate and find peace with, that they find home with. I've had that situation happen to me as well, where a living person sought me out prior to their death because they were looking for me to guide them. So that's another example. Now, there's two important things that I need you to remember here. While some people may experience very vivid visions or interactions with spirits, being a psychopomp can also manifest in a more subtle way. Simply having a strong inclination to support others during difficult transitions or helping them prepare for their end of life is being a psychopomp. If you are experiencing intense or overwhelming experiences related to death, it's important to seek out support. It doesn't matter if it's from a therapist or a group or a spiritual guide. It's important to seek out help to understand and navigate these experiences. Remember, self-care comes first. We can't do anything for anyone unless we take care of ourselves first. So, now that I have talked your ear off about the concept of psychopomps, what they are, whether or not you may or may not be one, what are your thoughts? What do you think about it? Have you ever experienced a moment that made you wonder if a psychopomp was involved? Have you experienced a moment where you came to someone with your grievances and your grief and felt calmed and soothed? Maybe you had a dream or a vision or a comforting presence during a tough time. Do you think maybe that could have been a psychopomp? Can you think of other examples of psychopomps in mythology? I'd love to hear your stories and your thoughts. And hey, if you have questions, please, I'm here for that. I would love to answer your questions. Leave me a comment or email me and we'll talk about it. In the meantime, that's it for this week, I think. Enjoy your day. Enjoy your week, because I'll be back next week. And if you enjoyed this podcast episode, do the thing. Like, subscribe, share, leave a comment. Until next time, remember, follow the moon, shoot for the stars, and know that you're loved. Ciao, besties.